Good morning, Madison.
Good morning, Aleph. How
How
are
you
you today?
doing?
I'm doing stellar today, thank you.
Yeah, well, welcome to my little live stream show kind of thing that we've got going on these days.
Yeah.
I didn't want that. Hold on a second. I'm pushing too many buttons. This is what happens when I get squirreled. Um, So we have Madison today, and Madison is a life coach, but her specialty is energy work and EFT tapping. So I think first off, I think people would be like, what is EFT tapping? Because that sounds a little wonky and I don't know what it is. So what's EFT tapping, Madison?
EFT tapping utilizes the meridian system, and in the body, that's equivalent to our electrical system within our body. And when acupuncture or acupressure uh, practitioners use those meridians, they're specific spots that they can dive into either with a needle or finger, whatever, that
Mm-hmm.
is correlated with a different part of the body.
Cool.
So the history of EFT actually goes back like 40 years.
Okay.
And when there was a gentleman, his name is Roger Callahan, was poking around and doing some research into how the meridians, the points work. He had been working with a woman that had a complete anxiety attack anytime she, even getting into the tub, that would bring up anxiety for her. And he had learned about these points, and in the course of working with her, it started showing up in her stomach.
Oh, wow.
And so she was feeling all this anxiety in her stomach, and he discovered that the meridian, the point that correlates with the stomach, is right underneath the eye. So he said, asked her if she wanted to try something, and of course, why not? And they took the round. He had her tap on these points, which I'll get into the points in just a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as she started tapping on those, the anxiety released and let go. And she was so elated with the results of that, she went running out to his swimming pool and was not triggered at all by looking at the water.
Wow.
And he was a little bit nervous because he knew she didn't know how to swim,
Right.
but it totally changed things. And eventually that became what's called thought form therapy. And then several years later, um, it was Gary, shoot, I'm drawing a blank. He kind of tweaked it a little bit and created his own system, so to speak. And that's how we know as EFT tapping right now.
Okay.
Tapping is a process that we can utilize um, anytime, because you've got your hands. So anytime you get stressed or whatever, you can go into a tapping round and get relief from that. Um, when the amygdala, which is in the back of the brain, in this part of the brain,
Mm-hmm.
gets triggered and starts sending cortisol throughout our whole body. That's what we feel, which is commonly called flight or fight. The stress hormone is what it's tagged as. And so when we tap, we actually break that circuitry. Because when we get stressed and stuff, we feel it in different parts of our body. And it's different for everybody. And sometimes, even if you're working on the same issue, it can show up different parts of the body. That's why we have like what they call the basic formula for tapping. And when you start tapping on those points, it actually breaks that connection from the mind and body to where you can release that and move on with your day.
How
So
long would tapping session take for the average person?
it depends on what the issue is. I worked with someone that worked in an office or works in an office and had a difficult time stopping long enough to eat a meal. He's not much on food and doesn't pay attention to food, but he knows he uses food for nourishment to nourish his body. And he would find that he was having, a hard time stopping long enough to take a break to nourish himself. And after the tapping session that we did, which was only one round and maybe 10, 15 minutes, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and it shifted that for him. And now he doesn't have a problem with that.
Now, some of the things that I've read about tapping is that um, you have to tap out a belief structure and then you have to tap in another belief structure. So is this something you have to do every single time? Or
No,
do you just like tap in something where it helps you get through the day?
answer to that is both, actually.
Okay.
Sometimes when you're working on an issue, for example, I was working with someone that she came to me because she wanted some help with the mind blocks in her belief system about money and bringing it into her life.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we started. I always interview or ask questions to the client that I'm working with to see what's going on, where they're feeling it in the body, at what level, 1 to 10, those kinds of things, and see what could possibly be a triggering aspect of that thing that she was wanting to work on. And through the course of the conversation, we figured out that it didn't have anything to do, she wasn't here for anything to do with money. It had to do with releasing a belief system about herself that was ingrained within her body when she was in high school. So
Oh,
quite
wow.
so quite often when you're going through a round, other things will come up. And if you're working on a specific thing, it's good to just kind of make a mental note as you're going through the process to what else comes up. And then you can go back and tap on that particular thing, because all of our emotions, whether when we experience an emotion, good or bad, it's all housed within our cellular system. So when we've been housing something or a belief for many, many years, sometimes there's many, many layers. Most people, when they start working on their stuff, their issues, find that we call it the layer of the onion. You think you're finished working on something, and then something else triggers that, and so you have to go in again. But each time you go in, it's always at a lesser degree, typically. So sometimes it's a one-shot wonder, just like the lady that was working on the anxiety in her stomach.
Uh-huh.
That only took one time. Typically, if you've got something that's embedded in your system for many, many years, you have to kind of dig at it. So it's a process that you have to go through.
It's always a process. And we were just talking about that before we come on, that you get
Yeah.
through one layer and then something else pops up, and you get through something else and something else pops up. And you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
still. And then you'll get through another layer and then you'll come back around to something that was like 4 layers. I'm like, still, you know?
Yeah. Well, sometimes an issue hits us at several different emotional levels. So, we all have basic areas in our life that we're working on, typically spiritual, emotional, and physical areas in our life. And so sometimes when you're working on a spiritual piece, for example, and you work through that discomfort in your body, it moves and clears a path for something that's going on in your physical body. Sometimes it'll hit all three at one time, hence going back and using the same formula, so to speak, of the issue that you're tapping on to clear that. But it always leaves space. When I started using tapping, which is probably almost 15, 16 years now, when I first learned about tapping, well,
Mm-hmm.
actually probably closer to 18 now. I was working on some issues with my divorce and my first husband. And yeah, 6, 7, 8 years later, here it comes again, and I thought I had done the forgiveness that I needed to do and letting go that I needed to do, all of those things. And when I started writing my book,
Mm-hmm.
things just, the can of worms just came out. And so I had to go to town with a lot of different issues that came up about my first husband.
No, I hear that. Totally get that, because that never happened to me. You
Yeah,
know, there's always, because you're a new person, and then there's new triggers that trigger that different aspect that you hadn't, dealt with because you hadn't thought of it before. You
exactly.
know,
Exactly.
because it triggers new emotions. I think
Yeah.
one of my things that I've experienced over the last year is like, it's been 10 years since I've been divorced, and you move through it, had another relationship, all that other stuff, and there's all that stuff you move through. But then when he had his second child, I'm like, oh my God, this triggered all of these other things again that I hadn't thought of like, why wasn't I helped, and why does like why and wasn't I good enough to I'm
Yeah.
like, what the hell? Like, I'm good, like on a stable level, I'm good, but then these other things have to go back in, and you got to find all those triggers again,
Yeah.
because you're at a different level now.
Yeah.
One, I think because you're at a different awareness, but then two, there's other layers of emotions that now you can see it easier.
Well, and the other factor with that, Aleph, is that, you're 10 years older now. So your life in itself is different. Mina's older. And so that brings a whole bucket of emotions, just raising a teenager, that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
And it may or may not be your stuff, but if Mina comes home with a problem, they say she has an upset at school or whatever, that help. You want to do your best as a mom to help her through that, but the underneath surface, it also triggers yourself. You're still reacting to her reaction.
I know.
So,
isn't that so much fun?
Yeah. 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 And as she gets older, there'll be the wedding and all of that stuff. So there's always life situations that we have to look at with a different set of eyes, so to speak. So.
I think my favorite way that I explain what tapping is to people is, because when you go through a full round of tapping and you actually sit with it and integrate it, that once you get through it, for me anyway, it's like you see your meridians are kind of like, your body is like this guitar, and your meridians are the strings, and that it's almost like you're dealing with a dusty guitar, and as you're tapping, it's like you're tapping or pulling the strings, or in creating some sort of vibration. So then you can see all of those dust particles that kind of shift off of those strings from the guitar. Like, you can see it, and that's like, you just feel it go all throughout your body. Like, when you've gone through that processing session, you're like, whew, okay, that's good. Bring it. I can totally do more. Sometimes
exactly. I don't think I've ever heard it expressed that way, and I might steal that from you.
Totally fine. Because visually, because I'm a visual person,
I am also.
To be able to say your meridians are like guitar strings, and when you pluck them after it's been sitting for a while, there's a lot of accumulation of dust. So if you just take that guitar and put it in the sun and pluck it, that's what you're doing with the tapping. With the meridian system. So you're clearing the shit, you're clearing that dust by creating some sort of agitation.
Yeah.
So that's just my own way of being like, this is what you do. This is what I did, and it literally feels like shivers going down your spine when you're done. And
exactly.
I totally rock that one.
Yeah. I know for me, tapping really saved my bacon when I was going through a difficult time with my daughter. I won't go into that right now, but it was pretty intense and lasted for probably close to a year. There was, things just kept coming up and coming up and coming up. And it got to the point that I didn't even want to come home. So I would pull, after I'd get off work, I would pull off to the side of the road and do some tapping just to calm myself back down so that I could walk in the door when I got home. There were times when, even when I did that, I would take myself to a lot of movies so that I would be getting home after my husband got home, so that I didn't have to be here by myself. So tapping really saved my bacon through all of that, big time. I didn't realize the level of all of the anxiety that I had. I thought I was doing a good job with dealing with it, but nah, not even.
So can we go through a tap? So what I want to do is I want to go through a tapping session, like a round, right? But then I also want to kind of go in and be like, how can someone kind of take this and, take the basic application for what they can do on their own, because there's a phraseology with each point. And I think that's been always the most intimidating thing for me with the tapping, is coming up with the one, you're identifying what it is, the belief structure that it is you're going to try to eliminate, and then what's the belief structure you're going to replace it with, and then creating those phrases around those
You're
belief
frozen.
structures. Yeah, I'm
Hey, look,
frozen.
you're frozen.
I am.
You were for
Am I
about 3.
back?
No,
Okay.
you're good. You're good.
Okay, so like what I was saying is, like, how do you take what you apply from today's thing for the basic round, create your own phraseology as far as like the belief structure that you need to tap out, a phraseology to tap in. I think that is the most intimidating thing for me doing this, is
Yeah.
coming up with the appropriate verbiage, because from the outside looking in, each section that you tap seems to have a different sort of power verbiage, or like deactivating verbiage to go
Yeah.
with each section. So that always seemed intimidating, and that's what ended up making me sometimes like not do it. I'm like, I don't have the ability or the mental to deal with all those freaking words. I just want to do it and be done. So
Yeah. I totally understand what you're saying. When I first started doing tapping, I would write out all these scripts. But what I found when I was working with people, I never went by the scripts, because you're in the moment, you're feeling the feelings that you're supposed to be feeling, and there is not a wrong way to do tapping, period. You just say whatever comes to your mind as
okay.
you're going through the tapping points. This doesn't feel so good. I'm really angry. You're not now. Why am I going through this again? Whatever it is that your brain is pulling up for you, that's
Mm-hmm.
just what you need to say. There's no right or wrong way to say it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Use me as a guinea pig. We can totally go through one. How's that?
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
totally down for being a guinea pig. I will take my safety little hat on, because I like to have a hat on that kind of makes me feel all balanced. So see, I'm getting all vulnerable by taking my hat off, because I need to be able to tap my head. All right, Madison, use me.
All right.
We'll be an example.
Okay. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that there's been over 200 studies done on scientific studies that have been done on tapping, and it's gotten so commonplace for a lot of people to hear about EFT tapping. There's Tony Robbins talks about tapping, Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer, John Gabriel, Joe Fatale, the chicken soup guy. I forgot his name. They all do tapping on. So it's pretty remarkable, because it's so quick and it works.
All right, let's show people how to do this.
Okay, is there a particular issue that you want to work on today? All of the above.
Well, let's see. Considering that a lot of what I've learned from the Tony Robbins weekend and my session with Melinda is my life seems to revolve around the belief, or the limiting belief structure, that I am not enough, and that I need to be quiet in order to be accepted, because I am too much. There you go.
All right. So before let's do a quick review of the tapping points. I know you've done it before. I've done some work with you in the past, but just to give you an overview and a tutorial,
Okay.
there are what they call the basic formula. There's also some other points that I can talk about later, but for now we're just going to go through the basics. So we do what's called a setup statement, which you tap on the side of your hand as we say the setup statement. I usually repeat them 3 or 4 times, and sometimes they're phrased in a different way.
Okay.
Then the next point is right at the edge of your eyebrow, and you tap there. The second is, and you aim to go kind of like right on the bone. The next point is the side of the eye, not on the temples, but right on, again, on the bone. So that's point number 2, or 2. Then underneath the eye, just again, right on that bone,
Mm-hmm.
under the nose, under the mouth, collarbone, under the arm, and that would be like where a woman's bra would sit.
Okay.
And then the last one is the top of the head.
Okay.
All right. I find that it's better if you can, once we identify the feeling and the emotion that's in your body, and we'll do that in a second, then you want to get into that feeling as much as you can possibly do. So you want to re-experience it a little bit. Think of a memory that triggered that response in your body, and
Okay.
just kind of focus on that. And then as we go through, we'll say other things. One of the things that I like to do is repeat things that you're telling yourself. So when you think about the situation, and I'll write it down so that we can incorporate that into the tapping, then I will use those. So what I want you to do and if you close your eyes, you can really delve into that feeling a little bit more intense. As you and as our viewers are going through this session, I will tell you and walk you through exactly where you need to go. So I will say eyebrow point, side of the eye, under the nose, under the mouth, collarbone, under the arm, top of the head. So you don't need to worry about watching me to see if you're in the right spot, because I will
Okay.
take you through it as we go. All right.
All right.
So think of a particular situation, an event that happened to you, that when that came up, when you just simply weren't enough, or you were told to be quiet and silence yourself.
Okay.
Let me know when you've got something in mind.
I got something.
Okay. And thinking of that, just sit with it for just a second. On a scale of 1 to 10, how intense is that feeling right now?
About a 7.
Okay. And is there a specific spot in your body that it's coming up? You're
Under my
feeling
throat.
under your throat or in your throat?
Under my throat, like between the vocal cord, like right between that and my sternum. So like right
Okay.
here.
Okay. And when you think about that, so go ahead and close your eyes. And do you have your feet flat on the floor?
I do.
Okay. Yeah. When you think about that, what are some of the things that goes through your head? What things are you saying to yourself?
That I'm never going to be enough, that I'm too loud for everybody, that I need to be quiet because that's appropriate. And people, you smile and you're not heard because then you're accepted and you have certain roles and you got to play your role to make sure everybody's happy. In order for everybody else to be happy, then you get to be happy.
All right. And does that mean that after you play this role and everybody's satisfied, then you can be happy?
Supposedly, yes.
Do you ever feel that way?
Yeah, so I've learned to identify people's needs about 5 steps ahead of before when they know that they need something so that they'll always have their thing at the right time when they need it.
Cool. That's awesome. So, all right. So we'll go ahead and start with the round. So
Okay.
tapping on the side of your hand.
Are we Oh, here we are. Okay.
Excuse me. Even though I get disgruntled when I think about how I'm supposed to behave, and go ahead and repeat that after me.
Even though I feel disgruntled about how I'm supposed to behave,
And it never seems that I'm right,
and it never seems that I'm right,
I choose to accept where I'm at right now
I choose to accept where I'm at right now
and honor this feeling.
and honor this feeling.
Even though it can be challenging at times,
Even though it can be challenging at times,
and I don't know which way is up,
and I don't know which way is up,
I choose to look at this a different way
I choose to look at this a different way
and honor myself as I do that.
and honor myself as I do that.
Even though this can be very challenging for me,
Even though this can be very challenging for me,
I choose right here, right now,
I choose right here, right now,
to accept where I'm at
to accept where I'm at
and love where I am.
and love where I am.
Okay, beginning with the eyebrow point. All of this feeling of not good enough.
All of this feeling of not good enough.
Side of the eye. Why do I try?
Why do I try?
Under the eye. It seems like it's never enough.
It seems like it's never enough.
Under the nose. I'm always too loud.
I'm always too loud.
Chin. I don't understand why I have to sit and be very quiet.
I don't understand why I have to sit and be very quiet.
Collarbone. That's not my personality.
That's not my personality.
Under the arm. So I am always silenced.
So I'm always silenced.
Top of the head. And I don't like that one bit.
And I don't like that one bit.
Eyebrow point. I don't understand why I feel these feelings.
I don't understand why I feel these feelings.
Side of the eye. Why should I have to?
Why should I have to?
Under the eye. My friends and family all seem to be doing okay.
My friends and family all seem to be doing okay.
Under the nose. So why am I not?
Why am I not?
Under the mouth. This feels really uncomfortable.
This feels really uncomfortable.
Collarbone. I feel all of this discomfort in my throat down through to my collarbone.
I feel all this discomfort from my throat to my collarbone.
Under the arm. I don't like this tightness that I'm feeling.
I don't like this tightness that I'm feeling.
Top of the head. I'd really like to be able to move on.
I'd really like to be able to move on.
Eyebrow point. What would it be to feel comfortable in my own body?
What would it be to feel comfortable in my own body?
Side of the eye. And be able to speak my truth.
And be able to speak my truth.
Under the eye. And be who I am.
And be who I am.
Under the nose. Maybe I could reframe this in my mind.
Maybe I could reframe this in my mind.
Under the mouth. And accept things the way they need to be.
And accept things the way they need to be.
Collarbone. And quit beating myself up when I feel bad.
And quit beating myself up when I feel bad.
Under the arm. Maybe I don't need to be quiet.
Maybe I don't need to be quiet.
Top of the head. And that just might be okay.
And that just might be okay.
Eyebrow point. Maybe I should be able to show up for myself.
Maybe I could be able to show up for myself.
Side of the eye. To be loved by myself.
To be loved by myself.
Under the eye. And accept where I'm at right now.
And accept where I'm at right now.
Under the nose. Because it truly is okay.
Because it truly is okay.
Under the mouth. So maybe I'm going to choose to look at things differently.
So maybe I'm going to choose to look at things differently.
Collarbone. And accept that I can say my truth.
And accept that I can say my truth.
Under the arm. Without any consequences from anybody else.
Without any consequences from anybody else.
Top of the head. Because I'm a powerful woman.
Because I'm a powerful woman.
Keep it there for a minute. And speak my truth.
And speak my truth.
Eyebrow point. And do what's good for the people that I'm working with.
And do what's good for the people that I'm working with.
Side of the eye. But at no compromise to myself.
But at no compromise to myself.
Under the eye. I'm totally willing to change.
I'm totally willing to be willing to change.
Under the nose. And think about this differently.
And think about this differently.
Chin. Under the mouth. I no longer need to feel like I'm limited.
I no longer need to feel like I'm limited.
Collarbone. I'm willing to accept that I am a powerful woman.
I am willing to accept that I am a powerful woman.
Under the arm. And work and help myself.
And work to help myself.
Top of the head. And my friends and loved ones that are around me.
And my friends and my loved ones that are around me.
Okay, keeping your eyes closed. Go ahead and stop tapping. And feel into the feelings that you felt when we first started. With the emotion that you were feeling.
Okay.
Can you rate that from a scale of 1 to 10? Where you're at right now?
Probably a 4.
Okay. All right. Take a deep breath in and let it out. One more. And let it out. Now, sometimes with my tapping sessions, I will go ahead and do a visualization meditation that kind of helps that to seep into your whole body. So
That was awesome. And I have someone who commented while I had my eyes closed. His name was Adam, and he said, "Too loud. I hear that. Sad we're taught and conditioned into silence." I know, right? Can you imagine if I had to be quiet all the time? It's such a freaking struggle.
especially for you, Aleph, because you are not a quiet person.
I am not at all.
And
Not.
not in a bad way by any stretch.
I guess it would be who you're talking to.
Yeah, well, okay, there's that. I'll give you that.
So
Yeah.
all of those things that you said, like, and all those things, it's just whatever comes naturally. So from what, to recap, it's almost like you went through all of the nasty, yucky feelings that you're feeling. And then, you kind of did what, 1 or 2 rounds of all the yucky stuffs, and then did 1 or 2 rounds of positive rephrasing.
Correct. I think Louise Hay said it the best. If you're going to clean a house, you have to look at the dust and dirt, or else you're not going to be able to clean it away. And so, the feelings and emotions that are trapped there, like you said, is the dust and the muck. And we have to voice those. By saying all of the quote unquote negative things, you're actually giving those feelings a voice because they've not been heard before. They're trapped in your body somewhere.
Yes, because we were told to be silent and quiet.
Exactly. So the idea is to get rid of all of those thoughts and feelings. And if things come up for you when you're doing the round, like maybe you thought of another situation that you were told to be quiet or whatever it is that comes up, that's something that you can go back in and tap on. And you don't need a script. I can't stress that enough because people, myself included, when I first started tapping, I kept thinking that I was going to do it wrong. But the reality is I was dealing with stuff. I had a lot of, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, and I'm not good enough to do this tapping because I'm going to screw it up. Those kinds of things are the things that I was telling myself in my head. And that just simply isn't true because it doesn't matter what you say, you're still giving a voice to those feelings.
That's for sure. I mean, I think when you're going through divorce, you're having so much negativity thrown at you that you could fill a freaking book of all of the belief structures.
Exactly.
I mean, and still, like, I still remember, God, when was it? 2005. It was 2005, and I remember sitting on the couch with my ex, and we were talking about future stuff. Well, talking is probably a very nice way of phrasing that. But I remember he said something, and it stuck to me for like years. It's like, why do you get to be creative? Why do you, out of everybody, get to be creative when the rest of us have to go to a job that we don't want to do? What makes you so special that you get to be creative? And I remember, I was like, oh, you know what I mean? And it affects you because it affects your belief structure that you can be successful at being creative,
Exactly.
because you're being attacked and judged for something that you're interested in. And then it got reinforced, with the second relationship. Is like, well, you got to grow up because real people have real worries, and you can't just be playing fairy and playing all day. You got to get into the real world, and you're in fantasy world. So like, there's so many belief structures that you have that get reinforced that attach themselves to your own beliefs of what you can and cannot do, that having the ability to be like, oh, we got to tap that out because that is connecting to that, which is reinforcing it, which is connecting to that, which is connecting to that.
And all of those connections we add to those connections as well, because okay, he says, why do you get to be creative? Then our minds, our brains go take a tangent and go a bunch of different other areas with different thoughts. So you're really dumping all kinds of emotions besides what the initial statement was. You're compounding it all. And it's time, and that also speaks to why, until we start working on ourselves, why a lot of times people go from a relationship, and until they've done some work on themselves, they get themselves into another relationship that's exactly the same as the one you just came out with,
or worse.
Yeah.
Because welcome to my club.
Yeah.
So I mean, one of the things that I learned yesterday is also, I had my session with Miranda, and the phrases that kept coming up were I am not enough, but then it was counterbalanced with the defiant I am somebody. And if you're not, you can't meet a negative belief by pushing on a positive one, because then you're not in flow. You know what I mean? You can't push your way, and one of the things I learned from Tony Robbins is you get to be pulled into your future. If you push into your future and push through things, then you're going against what it is that you need to do to flow. So it was really interesting that coming off of that weekend and then going into my session with Miranda, that these opposite feelings of no, I get to do this, and being defiant, but I hadn't dealt with the belief structure beforehand. So they were butting heads. So you're constantly swimming, and then the undercurrent pulls you back. So you really need to have these tools to be able to kind of go, oh, we're going to take away this, and then we're going to work over through this, because then you can be in flow in order to be to move towards where you need to be.
Exactly. Yeah. Someone else
So Angie said, happy and loud people unite. And I totally agree.
Yeah. It's important to find our own voice.
Yep.
So, tapping can be used besides the I'm not good enough and all of those kinds of things. It's pretty effective when you start at the beginning of your day, you tap in how you want your day to be. You don't necessarily have to start with a negative round. Just as I'm going to have a great day today. I'm going to meet all kinds of people. I'm going to be able to be of service to them. Whatever it is that's coming up in your brain, that's also a good tool to start your day with as well.
So. I know I got first introduced with tapping before I met you with the book Tapping into Wealth. And I remember this is when I was at the studio and trying to do the collaborative healing space there and trying to rent the space. And I had this book, Tapping, and I took it everywhere because, single mom trying to read when she can. And I had this belief structure that I didn't have the time to read. And then all of a sudden, once I got this book, the people I was supposed to meet with wouldn't show up, but I'd have the book. I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to sit here and I'm supposed to read on the porch on the swing. Okay, I get that, and it kept happening. And then I ended up getting through the book. And then, the tapping into wealth, it basically deals with a lot of the different belief structures of not, about dealing with money and your relationship with money. And they have scripts and they have instructions on how to, kind of work through different, progress to get from point A to point B in your money flow. Right. And I remember when I went through the whole book and then I did all of the exercises and I shut my phone off and I said, I'm going to go through the whole book. I tapped through the whole book. I did all the chapters all at once. It took me 4 hours to go through it all. Right. And I remember at the end of the 4 hours and I went back to my phone, I started to have connections of people going, hey, I'd like to collaborate. Hey, I'd like some baklava. Hey, I'd like this. I'm like, wow, this shit really works. I focused for 4 hours and tapped out all that stuff, tapped in all that stuff, made it through there's 30 freaking chapters in that book.
I know.
There's a lot.
I actually studied with Margaret for a while, and she did the system that she teaches. She calls it the money map situation. I was doing some work with a lady that, excuse me, Both she and her husband made a decent income, and they weren't hurting for money in any stretch of the world. And they wanted to do an extensive kitchen remodel. And she couldn't figure out why she was so resistant to shelling out the money. Because again, the money was not the issue. It was the fear of letting that go. And through the course of tapping and doing the money map with her, what we discovered is that her dad had been in a rock band and had been heavy into the drugs. And she used to hear her mom say, "Oh, we can't spend the money. We need to save it just in case." So
Oh,
that's underneath all of that is what the problem was.
yeah.
So, we take our attitudes and beliefs from whoever is nurturing us,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be about money, about religion, it doesn't matter. We garner all that information from our support system.
It's
So,
totally true.
yeah. So she's
Madison,
now enjoying a fabulous kitchen, by the way.
well, of course she is. So Madison, tell people how to find you.
Okay, my website is shiftingperspectives.net, and it's shifting with a hyphen, perspectives.net.
Interesting dot perspectives.
Yes.
I mean dash perspective
No, underscore.
underscore.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. I'm trying to type this as your perspectives. IVES.com.
.net.
.net.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I really like, oh, you know what? It is a dash. What am I saying? I can't
All
even.
right, let's do it again.
I am sorry.
Oh, it's all good.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why you and I got started working together is because of the Divorcee Cafe.
Right.
And that is such a fabulous organization. We used to meet in person, for those of you that are aware of that. And now we were doing it via Zoom, and things just kind of got, we had to shift some stuff. So that's why the practitioners are coming on and doing a live with you so
Mm-hmm.
that we can talk about that. I
Soon we'll have a new place, though. Soon,
Yes, we
soon.
will. Yes, we will. That's
Mm-hmm.
fabulous too, by the way. I've been there and it looks great. Um, Train of thought.
Did you get squirreled, Madison?
I did.
Oh
Okay.
my goodness.
Yeah. So, working for those of you that are involved with the Divorcee Cafe, I will be coming back again in the near future. And we
Mm-hmm.
will be talking about some of the issues that are specific to what you went through or are going through with a divorce. Because as we all know, for those of us that have been through a divorce, it's a can of worms.
Mm-hmm.
So we
And
will be
never, there's no bottom.
no, and if you have children out of that relationship, that's a whole nother can of worms. To how to navigate, the divorce settlement, the visitation rights, all of that stuff. So, if you have any questions about that, be sure to keep posted, and I'll be coming back to do that again.
Adam said, so glad to hear squirrel used so lately. Like to do, I get squirreled all the freaking time, and I have to tell people, be like, wait, you got to keep me focused because I'm gonna get squirreled. I completely own my squirrelness to the
Yeah.
point where there may be in the future where I might get ears and a tail. I don't know. I get very. It happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yes.
happens with people who have a lot of plates spinning at one time.
Yeah. And there's other things that you can do with incorporate in with tapping. I use essential oils, which really helps me set the stage for whatever it is that I'm doing. Um, Emotional boundaries and emotional struggles can be really helped when you use essential oils, either diffusing them or putting them on your body or ingesting them. Although not all oils are ingestible, by the way, but it's great. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, anytime. You can come back anytime. We can work on all sorts of stuff because we always
Um,
have stuff to work on. Maybe next time, because we can invite people into this, maybe next time if someone wants to go through it, I have an invite button. So I can just like invite somebody. We could even try to play with that and experiment with all sorts of stuff.
That sounds like a
You know
plan.
me, I'm all about trying to figure that out. Except when StreamYard keeps wanting to kick me off when I want to talk about philo dough, because apparently that's some sort of magical thing that I'm not supposed to talk about, and it keeps glitching on me when I try to do those live StreamYard videos. We got through it, but not without me like trying to keep it all together. So, yes.
Well, that's an art to work with those. So there you go. You can't just roll it out and fling it around like pizza dough.
Sure you can. It'll just fall to pieces all over the floor.
And just another plug for Aleph and the work that she does, in addition to the helping with people with Divorcee Cafe, whatnot. The baklava that Aleph makes is to die for.
Well, thank you.
She just does specialties, and once she gets the cafe, you'll need to come and check that out.
Soon.
Yep. Yep.
All right, peoples. Anybody else have some final words out there before we sign off from live stream world? No? We good? Oh, yep, we're good. All right. Thanks for playing.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.